Hello everyone and welcome to Wimium Strength. I'm Jeffrey and it's been a while since I've posted a video and I'll explain it today. First of all, I am hoping that I can get this out yet on Thanksgiving, on the US Thanksgiving Day, partly because I missed the Canadian Thanksgiving Day, which was, it's always the second Monday in October, and now it's November 28th. And I have a few American friends, so I want to use this opportunity to wish you a happy Thanksgiving Day. Now, I want to talk about why I didn't put many updates on. I definitely got distracted, but also a little discouraged as well with regards to the ketogenic diet. And I shouldn't be, because I'll tell you what, I didn't gain weight. I just stayed on a plateau for 2.5 months. I'm starting to learn why. I'm also, in the last few days, I'm starting to notice I'm losing weight again. I'm very thankful that I didn't gain any weight. Far better to stay at one point than to go back. And so I have yet to experience yo-yo dieting, in the ketogenic diet at least. So I'm sticking with it. But here's the thing, I started experimenting with different foods. And I'm talking about foods that are packaged and processed, unfortunately, but they have very good ingredients and they are marketed specifically for people on the ketogenic diet. And what I discovered was I was actually binging on those foods to the point where I was doing that too often, and instead of losing weight, I was maintaining a plateau. The other thing about these foods, and this is why it's far better to tailor the diet according to your body's needs. The ketogenic friendly foods often have extra fats added. In other words, the what they call the macro profile is adjusted for somebody who, let's say, does not need to lose as much weight as I do, or they are on the first few weeks of starting keto. You don't want to restrict your fat intake if your body is not adjusted yet for what they call fat adjusted. In other words, looking towards fat as your fuel. Once you have that fat adaptedness, if that's a word, you don't need to take any extra fats in. A healthy amount is always okay, but you want to take in just enough so that you notice you're losing weight, not too fast. You want to take in just enough so that you're not losing too much weight, maybe 2-3 pounds a week. Everyone's body is different, and it all depends on how fat adapted you are. Having discovered that, and discovered also my propensity to binge eat, even though it's not out of craving, but you know, that was obviously a habit that I had, a very bad habit before I started keto, but then I was binging on sugars. I avoided the starches. I could care less about starch. I was going straight for the sugar and eating tons of sugar. Well, at least I'm not doing that. And that's why I did not gain weight. It's been a very interesting 2-3 months that I haven't lost much. I'm starting to feel it in my waist again that I soon have to buy new pants. It's been all my adult life of eventually having to go to the store and buy pants that are a little wider. It's quite the amazing feeling. So even on this plateau, it feels like the fat redistributing. Certainly feeling it in the waist. There's still a lot to be thankful for. So another very important reason why I did not do any videos for the last little while is corresponding right around Thanksgiving. I did actually cheat for the first time. And I was cheating for, I'd say, 3 days. I bought cookies with lots of icing on because I wanted my sugar hit. I wanted donuts. And I bought them. And I ate. And to my surprise, I didn't gain that much weight. I felt terrible. And so I quickly realized, hey, get back on the straight and narrow. But there were lots of temptations for Thanksgiving. And so, again, for my American friends, you're going to have lots on the table. Be careful how much you eat, especially the carbohydrates along with the fats, because there's something called advanced glycation end products that occurs when you eat sugar along with protein or sugar along with fats. And when I say sugar, that includes the starches. You eat too much starch along with your fats, or too much starch along with your proteins, you're going to get the same thing. It just takes 3 hours for your body to process it instead of 1 hour. And some people call it sticky protein. Basically, sugar gets attached to your protein molecules and fat molecules, and your body takes it in, and it's basically damaged protein. You're not getting the proper nutrients when that happens. Well, when I started realizing that I was binging, I tried to find foods that would not cause that binging. Now, of course, the standard vegetables that I eat typically for dinner, it's impossible to binge. Think of it, kale or spinach. Would you ever want to binge on that? I could eat so much, and I frankly don't mind the taste. In fact, I'm acquiring a better taste for that. Kale tastes better with some garlic added and olive oil, and since I have it for dinner, the only one suffering with my bad breath would be my family. And now, before I go, I want to talk a little bit about the history of Thanksgiving, because I made some comments on some of my friends' YouTube sites, and I had Americans come back saying, hey, we'd love to hear the Canadian history about Thanksgiving. Some would say that the Canadian Thanksgiving was just a knee-jerk reaction to the Americans doing theirs. That's partly correct. There seems to be a more obscure history behind it. After the Revolutionary War in the U.S., that, of course, founded the country of the United States, the people who were loyal to Britain, they were actually refugees, and they moved to Canada. Now think of this for a second. Of all those celebrities who said they were going to move to Canada if a certain person would be elected as president of the US, they'd move to Canada. Well, guess what? They never did. But their forefathers, they did. Anyway, getting off the patriotic bent, these people who moved to Canada, they brought, of course, a lot of their American habits with them, and pumpkin pie and turkey for Thanksgiving, it was included. And they had it much more established. So certain pockets, especially in my province of Ontario, especially east of Toronto, on the north shore of Lake Ontario and further east, all of that was settled by United Empire Loyalists. That's what they called themselves, a loose-knit organization. That was their unifying cry, their unifying name, I should say, that rallied themselves to go ahead and move to Canada. If you check the Wikipedia article on the Canadian Thanksgiving, there will be a whole bunch of historical reasons, all sort of fitting, but nothing really pinpointing exactly the reason why. It is a long history of being a holiday, over 100 years, so very close to the American idea, where it pretty well started with the Pilgrims even before the Revolutionary War. If there's one unifying thing that I found about the two countries' Thanksgiving celebrations, it is the pioneering spirit, the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that people in history put out in order to farm Canada and basically tame the wilderness of Canada and the US. It's that pioneering spirit that led to people realizing, standing back and saying, thank God we have all this bounty, or thank God that He preserved us. See, there's a lot more than just harvest involved. And that's what you see a lot in the Canadian history of Thanksgiving. There were other reasons that Canadians celebrated Thanksgiving before a national holiday was established. For instance, peace from rebellions or war. The War of 1812, which we Canadians won against the US, by the way. The War of 1812, when that was over, there were periods of Thanksgiving, or days of Thanksgiving declared by the churches. Just think of that pioneering spirit, because, in a way, even though the ketogenic diet The classic ketogenic diet has been around for over 100 years. But they're still pioneers in this field because there's now a lot of research in intermittent fasting and more research into why taking in lots of fats is okay. New stuff that even people like Robert Atkins, who died about 10 years ago, he might have started seeing some of the research, but it wasn't enough for him to dare write about fats are okay, as long as you're putting in proper healthy fats, natural fats. And so this is still a pioneering field. And I look at myself and see how far I've gone. And I'm about, I haven't calculated recently, but I'm about 38% to goal. That's a lot to be thankful for. And you know, I haven't even been a year in. I can't wait for my first anniversary video, which is going to be around the end of February, where you're actually going to hear what my progress is for that year. And that's just the first year in my planned 3-year journey on the ketogenic lifestyle with intermittent fasting. I plan on doing this for the rest of my life. I've been too successful. I've gone on a little too long. The sun's getting low and it's shining in my eyes, and I'm sorry I squint a lot. So I want to wish you all, you Americans, a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope this helped you learn a little bit. I don't have many facts, hard history facts, but do research it, and you will see that the Canadian Thanksgiving is in some ways very similar, especially if you think in terms of the pioneering spirit of the first settlers of the land. This is Jeffrey, worshiping him in all my strength. To God be the glory.